Hello, this is going to be our first lesson on the mathematics of machine learning and AI, and we are going to cover operators and notations. So tune in and thank you. So let's get started. We are going to begin with the definition of terms, and we are going to define what an operation is. An operation is simply the manipulation of a value or variable by changing or maintaining its form, and an operator is simply that which facilitates this manipulation or transformation. So what do we mean by annotation? Annotation is how we denote or write this kind of operations. So there are two broad categories of notations, and these are divided into the subscript and the superscript. So annotation is simply anything that can be used to represent something else. And in mathematics mostly we use the Greek alphabet to denote various items that we want to write down. Going further, we have two kind of notations, the subscript and the superscript. The subscript shown there, this is used to enumerate or to count items in a given set or list. So for instance, in our list there, the list is A, it has data science, it has another element called machine learning and another called AI. So A1 simply denotes the first element in the set, which is data science. And this may not be true in some other branches of mathematics, where A1 can be used to show an operation. But for this lesson, we are going to be using the subscript to show a kind of enumeration or to differentiate between two items. So for the superscript, we have A raised to B. This notation is used to show exponentiation. So 2 to 3, 2 raised to 3 or 2 to power 3 is simply 8, or 2 cubed. 2 cubed is 8. This kind of notation is very consistent with other branches of mathematics, and it can be used to show more complex operations or a series of operations. We can give the example of a matrix transpose, so which is denoted by M raised to capital T. So the transpose simply changes the rows, and they become the columns, and the columns become the rows. In this part, we are going to learn about operators, and we are going to begin with the most kind of elementary, which is the arithmetic operators. These are addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and in some way exponentiation, which is a multiplication kind of operation. I'm going to explain a bit on the multiplicator or the multiplication operation. So this is simply denoted by AB. So in this case we ignore the operator and we just write it as AB, which is equals to A times B, which is equals to A dot B. And I'm going to give a disclaimer, and this disclaimer is concerning complex analysis, whereby A times B and A dot B are not the same, as we have dot products which are very different from cross products. This is a very wide branch of mathematics. It's called complex analysis. So in this example, we are going to be looking at one of the fundamental concepts of machine learning, and that is weights and biases. So there we have an equation: y is equals to wa dot xa plus wb dot xb plus another term b. So this is for some weights or some biases. So for arithmetic operators, we are going to be building a function. This function simply takes in 3 elements, a, b, c, and from these 3 elements we do 2 operations. One is summation and the other is division, and from these 2 operations we get the mean. The other kind of operators we're going to be looking at today is the relational operators. So we have an equality, a greater than, less than, and then a combination of the greater than and the less than, which is greater than or equal to, and the less than or equal to. So this kind of operators are used in decision making, along with some other kind of operators called logical operators. The idea is to evaluate a statement to true or false. So in our example today, we are going to, so in our Python example, again, we are going to be getting the mean, but this time we are going to be getting it from a list. And this function will only work if the length of the list is greater than 0 or it is not 0. This is going to assist us to avoid a division by 0 error. And as we previously defined, the logical operators, they are used in decision making. So we have the AND operator there, we also have the OR operator there, and the NOT. So the NOT is normally denoted using the exclamation point. For example, we have x is equals to 5, which is an assignment operator. So we are going to print the result of this logical operator, whereby x is greater than 0 and x is less than 10, which is actually true because, so again there we have the modulus operator, which is more or less a combination of the division process, whereby you are getting the remainder. Matrix operations are a fundamental concept in machine learning because one of the branches of machine learning is the linear algebra, and the linear algebra most of the time consists of manipulating matrices. And one peculiar thing about the manipulation of matrices is that the rules are kind of different, because say for 2 matrices A and B, with A having n rows and m columns, for there to be some kind of compatibility, we need the second matrix B to have a similar kind of i.e. the number of rows and columns, and if they are equal, we can do the summation, and for the product or the multiplication, we need the number of columns in the second matrix to be equal to the number of rows in the first matrix. So there we have some illustration, and the first being the addition of matrices, and we can see A is being added to E, and it's giving a new element, A plus E, The same case to subtraction, it is a minus a. For the scalar multiplication, we are simply taking k and multiplying it with the corresponding element in the matrix, and it's giving us a new element for each. And again, as we said, for the matrix multiplication, we have a dot e, or a times e plus b times g, which gives the first element of our matrix. And we do things in a similar fashion. We have e times c and d times g, and this gives another element. And for the other operation, we have the transpose. We simply defined the transpose previously. So the transpose simply shifts the rows and the columns as in there. For that operation, we have an identity matrix. So an operation where we multiply a matrix by its identity, we simply get the original matrix, so nothing changes. So an identity matrix by definition is an identity matrix by definition is a matrix whereby all the elements are 0 except for the leading diagonal, which is comprised of ones. So what is the inverse of a matrix? The inverse of a matrix, or A to power negative 1, simply takes in the determinant. The inverse of a matrix is a two-step process. The first one involves finding the determinant. So here we are just multiplying the diagonal elements and we are subtracting them. And the other operation, we are shifting the elements. So the D goes to A and A goes to D. And then we do another operation where we are using a multiplication by negative 1 for the other diagonal. And to find the inverse, we simply multiply the determinant and this new other matrix. And one peculiar thing about what an inverse is, a matrix whose multiplication by the original matrix will give us the identity matrix. For example, there you have a matrix which is defined by a list, and inside that list we have another list and another list. So it is simply a nested list. And to do the operation, we use a for loop, and we can simply verify that our answer is correct. So what are the other kind of operations? So the other kind of operations are simply a combination of the above with some more extra steps, and they normally have their own notations. So for instance, we have a unary operator and an assignment operator. The assignment operator simply assigns a value to a variable, say x is equals to 5, and then we have another operator, x plus is equals to 2. So this is simply x is equals to x plus 2, which is 5 plus 2. And then we have a unary operator there. So in general, we learned about, so for today's lesson we learned about manipulating values, and this being one of the fundamental concepts of data analysis, it is very crucial that you understand, very important that you understand what is kind of happening behind the hood, so that you really get a very good foundation on manipulating variables, and this will come very handy when you become a data scientist or an AI programmer. So thank you very much for staying through to the end. See you in the next one.